Still on the fundamentals of Python, we'll look at multiple line statements, we'll look at quotation. We have our PyCharm open, still the main.py. Now, in the last class, we created a file, a program known as firstprogram.py. So let's just open it. Now, this was what we did in the last class. Now, I can delete this, or I will just okay. Let's delete this. Let's delete what is inside here, and then we just continue with it. We don't have to create any new file. Now, when you're writing a Python script, the moment you press enter, that line has ended. The moment you move to a new line. But Python also has a character that can be used to increase the line. That is, instead of you ending at that first line, the moment you press enter, it has ended. Python can allow you continue to the next line. And that is what I want to demonstrate. For example, I'm just going to declare a variable, say total. I'm just going to declare a variable. This is a variable, total. And then I will say equals to 1. Now, the moment I press enter, it is expected that that first line has ended. But I don't want it to end. Instead of it ending, I will say plus, I just want to do addition of maybe plus 2 plus 3, like this. Now, I'm having this in a straight line. Then I can now say print total. I told you this, the moment you write this total, you are giving it a name. That is a variable name. And then you are assigning what is on this right-hand side to what is on this left-hand side. Then you call, so your data is going to be stored in this total. Now you are going to call a function, which is the print function, to display what is inside this total. So the interpreter is going to carry out this instruction, which is 1 plus 2 plus 3. And the answer will be kept in this total. Then you are calling a print function to print what is in this total out. So Python, once you move from this line to this line, this is a new line. This line has ended. This is a new line. In other programming languages, you probably have to, or maybe when we did the SQL, you probably have to use a semicolon to end this. But in Python, the moment you move to a new line, that line has ended. Now, if I execute this, it's going to give me output 6. Can you see? Now, the reason why this output is coming is because I asked it to display it. If I didn't ask it to display it, if I didn't put this print, this line, if I didn't put it, I'm still going to demonstrate it for you to see. If I didn't put this, Python will simply carry out this calculation and store the answer in this total. It will not be displayed on the screen. But because I'm calling this print function, which is a display function on the screen, to display whatever it is on the screen, and then I'm supplying this function with this parameter, which is this total, whatever the answer is what is going to display on the screen. Now, what I want to show you now is that Python will allow me, if I do this, I do this, and I do this. Now, you can see Python automatically brought this character, this backslash character. This backslash character is what is telling the interpreter that this line has not ended, that this next line is a continuation, and that this line is another continuation. If I remove this, you see, immediately. Now, this is the beauty of this IDE. If I had done this on my DOS platform, you will not see this. It will not tell you this. So even without me executing this program, I know that there is a problem. If you come to this place, you can see it's already showing me 3 errors. So I know that there's a problem. That is why you are seeing this red color underlining this. Why? Because the IDE itself has identified that this syntax is not correct. So if I try to execute this, it's going to throw me an error. So let's try to execute it. See, it's going to give me an error. Syntax error, invalid syntax. So it's telling me the rules, you are not obeying the rules. That is what it means. Why? Because at this point of total, you have ended, this line has not ended. But at this point now, you are still having plus. and then there is nothing to show that this is a continuation. So by doing that, the interpreter will be confused when he sees this 3, that what does it mean? So instead of giving you an output, the output is simply an error. You're not getting anything out. So that is it. Now, when I put this back, you can see that the error disappeared. So the interpreter now knows that at this point, I'm going to execute this line, 1 plus this line, 2 plus 3. Now, when I execute this, it's still going to give me that output, which is what? 6. So it's giving me the output 6. So with this character, Python enables you to continue the line, meaning this first line is not ending. So that is what that is about. Now, another thing again I want you to understand is that anything that is inside parentheses, whether square bracket or curly bracket or the normal bracket, doesn't require this. So if I remove this, I can now put this in parentheses, open here, and then close it here. There will be no error. Now, once you do that, the process will finish with exit code 0, meaning there is no error. So you are seeing your output. So the Python interpreter is the one doing the job for you. Once your syntax are accurate, Python interpreter execute it and then give you an output if you instructed it to do so. Now, the next thing we are going to look at is quotation. So Python deals with 3 types of quotation. We have the single quote, the double quote, and the triple quote. So we are going to see how they work here. So I delete this. Python works with this single quote, works with double quote, and works with triple quote. So any of these is acceptable in Python language. Single quote, double quote, triple quote. Now we are going to use them to set up any string. So any of these that you use, provided you have, if you are using single quote, then you need to have single quote at the beginning and single quote at the end. If you are using double quote, double quote at the beginning, double quote at the end. If you are using triple quote at the beginning and triple quote at the end. All of them will be correct. So let me just quickly demonstrate that for you to see. Let's say I'm also going to set up, declare a variable, and I will say a tete. Now I'm going to assign the value to this tete. So I will use single quote here, and then I will type grandfather. So what I'm saying is that I declare the variable, which this variable is the address, the name given to the address of memory. So at the moment, because that memory is what is going to keep your data before the function that you call will work on it. So I've assigned this name, etete, to my memory space, memory address. Then I'm going to put this grandfather inside. But you can see that for Python to understand this as a string, I'm putting a single quote. So this is correct. Then I'm going to also put another one. I will say, I will create another variable again. I will call it work. That is the variable I've created. I will call it work. And then I'll put it this time around in double quote. And I'm going to define it. Data supplied to Faith. Now you can see that is in double quote. Now I create another one. I will say Faith. I will create another variable called Faith. And then I will use triple quote. So I'm putting it in triple quote. This is the code that operates on the data supplied. So you can see any of this is correct. Etete, grandfather, work, data supplied to Faith. Faith, this is the code that operates on the data supplied. Now you can see that this one is single quote, this one is double quote, this one is triple quote. All of them are all correct. as far as Python is concerned. Now, when I execute this, see, it is done. Process finish with exit code. So, but nothing is displayed on the screen. Now, in my memory location, this etete now has grandfather in it. This work now has data supplied to faith inside it. This faith now has, this is the code that operates on the data supplied inside it. So I have assigned this to this. This operator means assignment operator. It is not the same thing as equals to. So what I'm trying to say is that I told you we are living in a multiverse. Now, you can say water in the real world. It might not be the same thing as water in another dimension. So a now is having grandfather inside. Work is having data supplied to faith. Faith is having, this is the code that operates on the data supplied. Now I have executed it, but you did not see it on the screen. I am going to call the print function to display the content of a work, and faith. So I'm going to just come here and say print and then put it in parentheses. That is that. And then I'll call another print and put in parentheses work. And then I will call another print and put in parentheses faith. So you see, I have created 3 variables and I've assigned data to these 3 variables. But when I executed it, nothing, it finished, process finished with exit code, but nothing was displayed on the screen because I did not call the print function to display anything for me. Now I am calling this print function to display the content of a work, and faith. So when I execute this, I'm going to see these things here. Can you see? Grandfather, data supplied to faith. This is the code that operates on the data supplied. What is here is what I have given. So this class was just to teach you about this single quote, this double quote, and the triple quote, that any of them you use is acceptable in the Python world. So that is what I have there. And then you can also use this triple quote for double line. I can decide that this is the code that operates on the data supplied. If I bring this here, it will still work. It won't throw me an error. If I try to execute it, now you can see that I broke this here by saying this is the code that operates on the data supplied, and it did the same thing here. Grandfather, data supplied to what? To faith. This is the code that operates on the data supplied. Only this triple quote can allow me to do this. If I change this place now to double like this, sorry, I change it to this double quote, it will not work. It will throw me an error. If I change it to single quote, I change this one to single quote, it will throw me an error. So the only difference between single quote, double quote, and triple quote is that triple quote can allow you break the line, have more than one line. So, but the others will not, because at this point now, it's already telling me, it's already giving me a syntax error. If I try to execute this, it's going to give me a syntax error. See, syntax error on terminated string literal, and it's telling me detected at line 3, which is this line. So this is the beauty of using this kind of platform. You will see it even before you execute, even before you hand this over to the interpreter. The IDE is already telling you that there's a problem. So if I bring this back and I change it to triple quote, but if I leave that one single quote and I bring it back here to one line, you see the error has gone. But the moment I make it multiple line, it's going to throw me an error unless I'm going to use triple quote for it. Now if I execute this one now, it's going to work. See? So the concept is you get data in one hand, you get function in the other hand. So your ability to know which function is going to do, this is like saying in a company, you have the accountant, you have the engineer, you have the doctor. If there is a problem to be done, a particular type of problem, You cannot call the accountant to go and do the work of an engineer. So your ability to know as the coordinator, to know who to call when there is a problem to execute that task is what makes you good or better than everybody. So the concept in any programming language is data in one hand, um, code in the other hand. Now, your ability to know which code to call when there is a problem so that you can give the data to that code and to execute makes the difference. That is purely it. So all you just need to do is read and know as many code as possible, where they are stored, where they are kept, so that when there's a problem that you need to solve, you know who to quickly call and say, you come here, this is the data, do this for me and give me the output. That is it. That is basically what um, languages are all about. You are speaking English. It's the same thing. I'm trying to communicate something to you now by teaching you this Python. I am calling certain functions in English language to be able to pass my message to you. The same concept. So I think we'll stop here today and then continue some other fundamentals in the next class. So till then, see you in the next class.